The Dieppe Raid was a disaster, but it taught the British many things. This knowledge would be used when planning the Normandy invasion. Maximum naval gunpower from the largest ships of war would be required to knock out artillery and support the troops right up to the moment they landed. Control of the air above the landing zone was essential. Dieppe had proven it would be impossible to capture a heavily defended port intact. Nevertheless, for a successful invasion of Europe, a port was required. The British designed and built two massive artificial harbours, known as mulberries, and towed them across the Channel to Normandy. Special equipment and weapons had to be designed and manufactured specifically for the D-Day landings. A range of specialist tanks to help overcome the well-prepared German defences were developed. The Sherman was a good, plentiful and versatile tank. However, its gun was too small to pierce the armour of German Tiger tanks. The British fitted Sherman tanks with 17-pound anti-tank guns capable of knocking out heavy German tanks. DD tanks were amphibious tanks which could be launched at sea and swim to shore. The Crocodile was a flame-throwing tank which scared the hell out of the enemy, so much so that cruiser crocodiles, if captured, were immediately executed. The Avery had its main gun replaced by a heavy mortar which fired 40-pound projectiles capable of destroying bunkers. The Crab was a modified Sherman equipped with a rotating flail to explode mines. This knowledge, bought with the blood of Canadians, would save lives on D-Day and ensure the successful invasion of Europe by the Allies. The story of the Dieppe Raid follows, but tell us what you think about the Canadian sacrifice. 3,367 Canadians killed, wounded or taken prisoner. 275 British commandos killed, wounded or taken prisoner. 550 Royal Navy casualties killed or wounded. 3 Rangers killed, 5 wounded, 5 taken prisoner. 591 German army casualties killed and wounded. Stalin, the Russian leader, his country under attack from Germany, was putting pressure on Churchill and Roosevelt to open up a second front. The Allies were not prepared for a second front in 1942. They did not have the manpower, ships or control of the air required for a successful invasion. A raid in force, codenamed Operation Jubilee, was planned on the enemy-held French coast at Dieppe. The assault would be made mainly by the Canadian Army. 298 officers and 4,663 men, with British commandos, 65 officers, 992 men, and 50 American Rangers who had been training with the commandos. Right from the beginning, the problems would mount up. The RAF would not supply bombers to soften up Dieppe before the main assault. The Royal Navy would not supply large warships to bombard the enemy shore positions, although the smaller Navy vessels did everything asked of them and more. Only a few months previously, German General Conrad Haas had declared the area around Dieppe as Fortress Dieppe. Dieppe had a shingle beach with high cliffs on both sides. There was a sea wall with 2 rows of barbed wire entanglement on top. It was defended by pillboxes, sniper emplacements, and machine gun posts. There were artillery strong points, including 9 anti-tank guns and coastal batteries on the headlands. The beach could be swept by machine gun fire. The Royal Navy passed through the minefield at 0300 hours, and their luck ran out. The fleet ran into a German convoy, escorted by Schnellboots, fast torpedo boats. The gamble of a surprise attack had failed. Landing craft scattered, with 4 being so badly damaged they had to return to England. The enemy, forewarned, waited for the approaching ships. No. 3 Commando landed at Yellow Beach to destroy the German battery at Bannonval. German E-boats had sank several of the landing craft and badly damaged the escorting gunboat. No. 4 Commando, including American Rangers, landed at Orange Beach to destroy the battery at Varangeville. This would be the first time American troops fought on European soil during World War II. The South Saskatchewan and the Cameroons landed at Green Beach. With them was radar specialist Jack Nissen to find out as much as possible about the German radar station. His escort had been instructed to kill him if he fell into enemy hands. The Royal Regiment of Canada landed at Blue Beach to destroy the machine gun and artillery emplacements. The Royal Regiment came under extremely heavy fire on the run-in. The Canadian, Essex Scottish and the Royal Hamilton Light Infantry landed at Red and White Beaches. Their support tanks were late arriving. Communication with the shore parties failed. Targeted by the enemy, almost all the radio operators had been killed and their radio transmitters destroyed by enemy fire. Unaware of the deteriorating situation on the beach, the reserve units of the Canadian Fusiliers Mont Royals and the British Royal Marines were also sent in. HMS Locust, carrying a Royal Marine cutting-out party, attempted to get into the harbour. After several attempts, under very heavy fire and severely damaged, the mission was aborted. HMS Garth, Bleasdale, Berkeley and Albrighton fired broadsides at enemy strongpoints in the buildings along the promenade. Yellow Beach. Only 18 men from No. 3 Commando landed at the right place. Nevertheless, they managed to disrupt the battery firing at the Royal Navy. They were eventually forced to withdraw in the face of superior enemy forces. Orange Beach. No. 4 Commando and the Rangers achieved their objective and successfully stormed the Varangeville battery. Green Beach. Only a handful of men of the South Saskatchewan Regiment reached their objectives. The Queen's Own Cameroon Highlanders of Canada landed late but managed to penetrate further inland than any other troops that day. The Cameroons were stopped when German reinforcements were rushed to confront them. Blue Beach. The Royal Regiment of Canada were annihilated on Blue Beach. Only 60 men out of 543 were extracted from the beach. White and Red Beaches. White and Red Beaches were a killing field. From the high ground, machine guns and artillery had overlapping fields of fire. Those who survived the landing found themselves pinned down on the beach. The 29 Churchill tanks of the 14th Canadian Army Tank Regiment were met by anti-tank guns. Sappers managed to blow up the sea wall to allow the surviving tanks to cross. Of 70 sappers, all but 9 were killed when they landed. Most tanks never made it off the beach. Those that did cross the sea wall were stopped by concrete roadblock. Only one man of the 29 tank crews would return to England. The Canadian Essex Scottish and the Royal Hamilton Light Infantry were devastated by murderous machine gun crossfire. Most of the troops that did reach the shore were killed, wounded or captured. At 1100 hours, under heavy fire, through a smoke screen, the Royal Navy commenced taking survivors off the beaches. Again and again, under heavy assault, the Royal Navy returned to the beaches until every man possible was withdrawn, or the beaches were overwhelmed by the enemy and the troops taken prisoner. The wounded were taken directly to Portsmouth, where every available ambulance was waiting at the dockside. For 2 days and nights, the surgeons at 5 hospitals worked around the clock, operating on the wounded. The attack on Dieppe kept 33 German divisions pinned down in the west.